All right, welcome to the show, y'all. We got a lot of stuff to get into today. So in just a second, the Trump regime has betrayed Gaza as Israel unleashes hell and really implements their final solution, if we're being honest about what's unfolding. So we'll talk about that. Got a lot of horrible updates there. We'll get to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino lying about Jeffrey Epstein's death in a Trump cover-up, which more people should be talking about. We also have Trump threatening Supreme Court justices. We have Theo Vaughn talking about Gaza and nearly crying. I'm going to react to that. I have a lot of things to say about that. And we also have the U.S. credit rating has officially been downgraded as stocks plummet and the U.S. dollar goes down because every decision Trump has made when it comes to the economy has been an unmitigated disaster since day one. So beyond that, we have Trump doing something to effectively lay the groundwork to mass arrest Democrats. We have the tariff price hikes are now officially here. And wait until I show you these protests that are currently happening over the massive Medicaid cuts that the Republicans are trying to do. Really heartbreaking stuff. And this is one of those stories, again, that doesn't get nearly enough coverage. I mean, people are out there fighting for their lives, fighting for getting health care. And, you know, it's not treated as the life and death issue that it quite literally is. So there's a lot of stuff to get to. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing. You could also like the video. By the way, thank you to everybody who supports the show on Patreon. Literally couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to support the show on Patreon, the link is below to do that. You could also sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends below as well. And while I'm on the topic of shameless plugs, everybody go subscribe to my boy Corin's YouTube channel. The name of that channel is Corin's World. We've been posting Kyle and Corin's there every week, and we're trying to get him all the way to 100,000 subscribers. So he would deeply, deeply appreciate it if you sub there too. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into it. So unfortunately, starting with incredibly serious and incredibly heavy news to give to you guys. So this came out on May 14th, and I wanted to show you. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, scientists say. Incredibly powerful investigation in Dutch newspaper NRC. 7 of the world's leading genocide scholars, including renowned Holocaust experts, describe Israel's actions in Gaza as genocidal. So Rutger Bregman goes on to point out here, these are not activists. They include Holocaust scholars and the heads of major genocide research centers, scholars from Israel, the US, the UK, Australia, and the Netherlands, and they are not divided. Without exception, they describe Israel's actions as genocidal. And then he goes on to give some more information on it. But 7 top genocide scholars in the world all agreeing. Now, look, I think it's a fair criticism to say, it took you this long? And to be fair, maybe some of the people who are saying it now, they have been saying it for a while, but some of them weren't. Right? So I understand that criticism of like, it took this long, really? But at the same time, the message could not be more clear. And this is on top of virtually every single human rights organization on the planet. The Amnesty Internationals and the Human Rights Watch and all these other ones, they've all said the same thing as well. And there is tedious documentation of what's happening right in front of our eyes. But guys, believe me when I say, it has actually gotten worse. We discussed this the other day, but I wanted to bring it up again because this truly, truly is psychopathic. But the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, has lost access to his email and his bank accounts have been frozen. And the reason that's happening is because this guy did his job and said, yes, Israel's committing war crimes. Yes, Netanyahu is a war criminal. Yes, we have a warrant for his arrest and many other war criminals in Israel. As a direct result of him doing his job, his life was just effectively ruined where he lost his email and his bank accounts have been frozen. The US and Israel are trying to send a message. Sit down, shut up. I don't care what you see. I don't care what you hear. I don't care what the evidence says. We're going to plow ahead with this genocide and we don't give a damn who stands in our way. We will destroy you. We will take you down. By the way, I have a story for you tomorrow on this thing called Project Esther, which is basically Israel's detailed secret plan to destroy freedom of speech in this country, in the United States, and make it so any sort of activism in favor of Palestinians is spun as anti-Semitic and will get your life basically destroyed. So that, we'll do a segment on that tomorrow, but I got more for you here. So do you guys remember? I remember when we had our first fake Trump ceasefire in Gaza. And I remember a bunch of idiots falling for it, thinking that Trump was negotiating in good faith and that the ceasefire would actually stick and that this was real. And then what people learned very quickly is it wasn't even a ceasefire. It was a fake ceasefire. Israel had the word of the United States. After phase one, you could just ignore it completely, and that's fine. You can go back to doing the genocide and even doing the genocide harder. And so we called it out from day one. There were many others who saw through it, but unfortunately, a lot of people fell for it. Well, guess what, y'all? We just had another round of this nonsense where people fell for the head fake as if the Trump regime was going to make a deal and do right by the Palestinians. And of course, that didn't happen. So look at this from Dropsite News. Hamas says that Witkoff, that's a top Trump administration official who's involved in these negotiations. Hamas says that Witkoff personally promised to lift the Gaza blockade in exchange for the release of Eden Alexander. Now, Eden Alexander was a hostage being held by Hamas. This person is both American and Israeli, but interestingly enough, they're an IDF soldier. They were in the IDF. Okay, so they secured the release of this guy, Eden Alexander, and again, part of that deal was, okay, we get a ceasefire. You're going to lift the Gaza blockade, you're going to allow food in, and there's going to be a ceasefire. Right? We got people who are literally starving to death, a man-made famine, starvation as a weapon of war. The deal is, we'll release this dude, you allow the food in. Right? Guess what? The U.S. immediately broke the deal. Senior Hamas official Bassem Naim tells Dropsite News they threw it in the trash, and there has been zero progress on a Gaza ceasefire. So this report was by the great journalist Jeremy Scahill. He lays it out in detail. But the bottom line is, this Trump regime thug goes over there and tells Hamas, yeah, we'll allow in food for the starving Palestinians. You got to release this Eden Alexander guy. They hold up their end of the bargain and release the guy. And then the Trump regime turns around and goes, ha, we didn't actually mean it. Starve to death. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Now, there's been some updated information. Ready for this? That Israel is further toying with Palestinians in Gaza. And they say, I guess we'll allow in 9 trucks. 9 trucks of aid for 1.9 million people? 9 trucks of aid. By the way, a lot of those trucks, they literally are just packed full of body bags. So this is Israel flat out trolling the Palestinians who they're starving to death. And also trying to trick the international community, say, whoa, we're sending aid. We sent in 9 trucks that are mostly filled with body bags that look like flour, but it's really body bags. So who's to say if it's flour or body? Everybody shut up. Everybody shut up and take it. So yet again, fell for it again award for everybody who looked at this and thought, oh, the Trump regime is acting in good faith and they're going to make a deal and stick by it. You literally have a scenario where Hamas is more true to their word than the Trump regime. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. That's a fact. All right. Israel has killed more than 500 Palestinians in Gaza in 72 hours. In fact, many are calling it the bloodiest murder spree of the entire genocide so far. That's what they're calling it. So, at the same time, Trump has hit the media, and listen to what he's saying, because there's actually a very detailed plan that they're working on in terms of what they want to do with the Palestinians in Gaza.
Israel, Hamas, the situation in Gaza is going to come to an end soon?
Gaza's a nasty place. It's been that way for years. I think it should become a free zone. You know, freedom. I call it a freedom zone. It should become a freedom zone. It doesn't work. Every 10 years they go back. They have Hamas. Everybody's being killed all over the place. I mean, you ever see, you talk about crime stats. It's a nasty place.
Are these people, these countries that you were just visiting, are they going to have to be a part of the solution?
Well, they would be. They would be. I spoke to all 3 of them. They would absolutely be. I mean, they're really rich and really, 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 even more than rich. They're good people. And they would help. And so money's not even the problem.
You got to get countries to say yes, to take them.
Look, these are people that want to be in the Middle East. They really want to be in the Middle East. They love the Middle East. I see that. There's a spirit for the Middle East. They didn't have to go to Sweden, Germany, these different countries. They could have been home in the Middle East if somebody had the brains to build beautiful communities. You know, 1.9 million is a lot of people, but it's not a lot of people.
So why is he saying that? Why is Trump saying that? The answer is pretty straightforward. NBC News reports, the Trump administration is working on a plan to permanently relocate up to 1 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Libya. 5 people with knowledge of the effort told NBC News. This is a highfalutin way of NBC admitting ethnic cleansing. We're working on ethnic cleansing. That's what we're doing. We are trying to complete our ethnic cleansing plan of Gaza. So in other words, when Trump said recently, we're going to take Gaza, we're going to own Gaza, we're going to build beautiful casinos and hotels on the beach, it'll be a freedom zone, it'll be amazing. When he said that, he was serious. And when he said, we're going to ethnically cleanse the region and not allow the Palestinians back in, he was serious. All these things that Trump says, and people refuse to take him at face value when he talks about Greenland, when he talks about Panama, when he talks about Iran. What if a lot of these things he says, he actually does mean? I get that he's a pathological liar, but the way he works is, you can tell when he's pathologically lying because he says things that would be positive that he's going to do, right? And then he ends up doing something shitty. But when he says he's going to do the bad thing, he does the bad thing, right? So if he's saying something outrageous and extreme and insane, usually those are actually his honest moments. And so here we are. They're literally working on the details of a plan to ethnically cleanse Gaza right in front of our eyes. The other thing is, they keep giving up the game, right? They'll say, oh, there's about 1.8 or 1.9 million Palestinians. This is what Trump will say, right? This one, they want to move 1 million of them specifically to Libya, which is, by the way, a failed state. Let's be clear about that as well. Open slave markets are there. I'm sure it'll go well for the Palestinians who get forcibly sent there. But when they say there's 1.8 or 1.9 million Palestinians, what they are admitting is that the genocide has killed hundreds of thousands, probably 400,000 Palestinians. The embedded admission is, because there used to be about 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza, now you're saying it's 1.9 or 1.8. That's 400,000 to 500,000 people who were killed, by the way, 90% of which are innocent civilians. Even the IDF admits about 80% of them are civilians. Happening right in front of our eyes, y'all. Right in front of our eyes. Michael Tracy says the following. Have you noticed that Trump's big lavish tour of the Gulf monarchies literally coincided with Israel commencing its end-stage annihilation campaign in Gaza, subduing regional opposition from the already docile potentates, and even the ruler of Syria also seemingly neutralized? He goes on to say, Trump gave a big speech decrying interventionism and nation building, and then on the same trip proceeded to repeat his idea for the U.S. to take Gaza and turn it into a freedom zone. So we might need some clarity as to what he was actually decrying. Only Trump can be this immensely contradictory. You can't at the same time say, I'm against interventionism, I'm against nation building, and then in the next breath say, we're going to take Gaza and occupy it and turn it into a freedom zone, which is their way of saying, let's make it hyper-capitalist and let's have the West control it. Because that is interventionism. That is nation building. Everybody knows that. Remember this? Whatever happened with that clearly bogus rumor that Trump was going to recognize a Palestinian state during the Middle East trip? Historical note, George W. Bush visited the same Gulf states in January 2008 and declared, the establishment of the state of Palestine is long overdue. Even George W. Bush paid the lip service to the idea, which was the official Western position for a very long time, even though his policies were contradictory to that. Here's Trump. I saw all these articles. Trump's going to recognize a Palestinian state, bro. He's actually really pissed at Netanyahu, bro. They're not getting along, bro. What happened? None of that. Of course he didn't recognize a Palestinian state. And by the way, him and Netanyahu, there's no rift there. It's fake. It's kayfabe. Don't you all remember the 17 different articles at different times that said, this time for real, seriously, Joe Biden is actually really mad at Netanyahu. They're not getting along, bro. He's really, Netanyahu's reaching the end of the line here, bro. He's going to be put in line shortly, bro. That never happened. That never happened. But with Trump, all of a sudden people see it and they believe it? No, this is all kayfabe. This is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. They are on the exact same page, by the way. Not just with Gaza, also with Iran. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. That the truth slipped out. Steve Witkoff on one of the Sunday news shows let the truth slip out about what the plan is vis-a-vis Iran. And I'm going to break that down for you tomorrow. But understand, Netanyahu and Trump are on the exact same page. And one of the reasons they are is, of course, because Trump is bought and owned by the Israel lobby, taking over $100 million from Miriam Adelson alone. And Miriam Adelson is rabidly pro-Israel and supports the genocide. And so there's no daylight between them. And that's why right now they are still live streaming a genocide and escalating the atrocities, and nowhere near enough people are talking about this. Because I never in my life thought, hey, as evil as the Nazis were, like, how could we ever let that happen? We're never going to let that happen again. Sure, there'll be wars. Sure, there'll be, different levels of oppression and things of that nature, because humans are human and that's going to happen. But I never thought it would be like, no, it's going to be as clear as it was with the Nazis. And I'll be damned. This is just as fucking clear as it was. It couldn't be any more clear. It couldn't be any more clear. Even to this day, you have the top Israeli government officials coming out and saying the most casually genocidal shit you've ever heard. Every time they open their mouth, they sound like it's a page in Mein Kampf. Right? It's all happening right in front of our eyes. You've all heard each comment after comment from Israeli military officials, Israeli media figures, Israeli politicians. All the hospitals they've bombed, and schools they've bombed, and UN buildings they've bombed, and kids that have needed amputation, and kids being sniped in the face. All these horrible... It's all happening right in front of us. And the final solution is occurring in this moment. So if you ever wondered what you would do during, a historic atrocity, now you know. Whatever you're doing now is what you would have done then. It's just, it's truly horrific. The international community needs to get together. And it needs to be said, the U.S. needs to be isolated. Israel needs to be isolated. So they have to come to the rescue of the Palestinian people, because it has never been more clear what's going on. And at this point, they're barely trying to even put a veneer of seriousness over it. They are flat out at war with international law and the UN. They're at war with basic human rights and the Magna Carta. So here we are. But this is yet another example of the Trump regime flat out betraying Palestinians in Gaza and gaslighting everybody as the annihilation campaign and extermination campaign increases. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.